welcome to Business Owners Speak Out, our podcast. We are here today with James from Capital Care Plumbing. Thanks for coming.
How are you doing?
You're our first in-studio guest.
Right, and of course I'm super nervous about the whole thing.
You're going to do great.
So let's see how it goes.
Awesome. Yes, awesome. So why don't you tell us about yourself and Capital Care?
Okay, so I've been in business for over 20 years, and I guess the way I started was 20 years ago. I was working as a plumber for another company and said, I think I can do this better, which I think a lot of us do. And they go, oh, and we think a lot of times it's about the work we do as a business owner, and realize that after you get into it, there's a lot more to business than the actual work we're doing. And so that was the most difficult part of it was, hey, the IRS is a real deal and they don't play around. And so I quickly learned that I couldn't do the books myself. Advertising was another challenge, hiring the right people. So there were a lot of things that were hidden from me when I first started. Yeah. So 20 some years later, I felt like I got a lot of those things in order, and it is a joy being in business now. Awesome. But when we first started, very much hair pull.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we exist, right? Because so many people do that. They either have a hobby that they love or they're just really good at something and they go, I'm going to make this a business. But they forget that there's a whole business side to it that they need to learn. And so that's exactly what we teach. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And so tell us about some of why plumbing, first of all? Is there a reason?
So I started, and we were talking about this earlier. I came out of high school. Sometimes I like to joke around and say I came out of high school a complete idiot. Okay. But in all literal sense, I came out reading at about a fifth grade level. I was pretty much one of these kids that teachers were glad to see, just move them on so I don't have to deal with them. After high school, I went to a trade school and I became a steel worker. Okay. And that was when I really started pushing things in life, wanting to learn to read better. I still don't read a whole lot. Things. I rather listen to stuff on books, on tapes, watch videos on things. Definitely, we've hired ActionCOACH before, and we just kind of like suck it all in that way. That's the best way I learn. Everybody learns a different way. Yeah. Some people learn by putting their hands on. Some people learn by seeing it. Some people learn by reading it. I'm more of I got to put my hands on it.
Same here.
Mess it up and then try it again until I get it right.
Kinesthetic type learner. Yeah.
You know, whether it's cooking, whether it's plumbing, whether it's business, I got to put my hands on it to make it work. That's totally just the way I operate. So still today, I don't do a lot of reading. You email me and someone screens all my emails and say, these are the important ones you really need to slow down and read. Awesome. And that's how we do those things at our office.
And so how'd you make the jump from steel to plumbing?
Ooh, that's a big jump. That's a big jump. So I graduated Newport News Shipbuilding Apprenticeship School, and I was studying to be a naval engineer. They were paying for my college. And probably the first time I really broke my mom's heart was when I told her I was going to quit college and school and become a car salesperson. And so I quit my job to sell cars, and that lasted about 35 days. And I said, this is horrible. This is horrible. This is not what I'm set up for. Yeah. And so I went out seeking for work, and I wound up working for a plumbing company, and that's how it all started. And I really enjoyed the trade.
Very cool. And I know I've coached a few plumbing companies as well. And, I know Rosie and I know a couple other people. And it seems like trades, how's hiring? Let's talk about that.
Ooh, hiring. So my first company was in North Carolina. I built, and hiring was different. We had different hiring challenges in North Carolina than we do here in Texas. And so the first company was sold, and that's what got me to Texas. Yeah. And so now we're actually taking what we learned on the first company and we're building it better the second time on this company here in Texas. Hiring is definitely challenging. I'm glad you brought that question up because I was thinking about that today. We always want to try to hire people that are moving up in the ladder and not down. And I think what happens in not just plumbing, but service industries together, we catch people that are moving from a good company and either they were terminated or they got frustrated and quit, and they're moving down. And I hate to say our company is down, but there are companies that really still have things a little better, a little more organized. And we take those employees thinking, wow, they work for a good company and they have it together, but there's a reason they're not there anymore. Mm-hmm. Nobody goes from a company that has full benefits and everything and goes down. They only should be moving up. And so what we've decided to do was, for our employees, is make it a win-win-win situation. It has to be a win for the customer, has to be a win for the company, but we also need to say, hey, the company can't just make a profit and make our employees work 24/7. So we have to make it a win for the employees, and through benefits, time off, insurance, making sure we have our workers' comp. We need to make it a win for the employee. And that way we can take other companies that don't have it together like we do, and we can take their better employees that want to step up.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And that's the direction we're trying to find for hiring our employees that are stepping up.
Yeah.
And all our employees, it's very good with employees that you always create a boundary, a healthy boundary for them to work in, because then they can work within those boundaries and feel safe. Mm-hmm. They're not guessing, what should I be charging? They're not guessing, should I reschedule this call? They know the procedure that they're supposed to follow. When you get this job, you own it. You're to walk it all the way through. If I'm getting a call on the job, somewhere along the line, you probably did not have the communication right with your client.
Sure.
And so when I step in, it's generally after something has been broken down in our process that we've set. Gotcha. So that's it. And the process is thanks to ActionCOACH.
Yeah.
Because we did hire you guys for a while. And they helped us with setting up good policies, procedures for our guys to walk through.
Awesome. I did not tell him to say that.
She didn't tell us to say that, by the way.
I love it. No, that is awesome that you have to have those processes. But I think on the hiring front, that was probably one of my biggest things that I tell clients all the time is, you want to hire someone that has a job,
yes.
Not someone who doesn't, because there's a reason they don't have a job.
Right.
And it is interesting, but I've heard there's just a lot of struggles with trades availability, even having the people. I've heard a lot of people are not wanting to be like the younger generation.
Yeah.
Not wanting to be in that trade industry.
I don't know if we want to go down the younger generation topic here.
Okay.
Because we got to keep it politically correct.
Sure.
We have to avoid that topic.
All right. We will skip that one. But back to the company then. Residential, commercial, both, new construction, only repairs. What do you do?
So there is an old saying. One of the things is people who have opened their own business plumbing wise, I do sit down with the owners and try to help them through some of the pitfalls we walk through. But one of the pitfalls you definitely need to keep from walking through, and one thing you always need to remember is, I have never lost money on a job I've walked away from. I only lose money on jobs that I say, I can do that, and you get into it and you find out that there are things about that job you just weren't fully prepared for. There's always going to be things that pop up, but there are things you should be prepared for. And if you're just really not knowledgeable about it, you should maybe really think twice about bidding on it. Just because a job pays $100,000 or $200,000 does not mean at the end of the day you're going to be profitable.
Right.
And when you take on a job like that, you own it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's big or little. When you commit to it, you should follow through with it, sure. Even if it means you're going to take a loss.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that.
That's character building.
Yeah. That's reputation.
That may not be best business advice money-wise, but that's best character building. And that's what people need to do. But yeah, don't take a job if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So if it's new construction, we stay away from it.
Okay.
We don't have the team to do new construction. We have stuff to do remodeling, tunnel work, repipe, emergency. We're set up. You call us at 2 a.m. We're trying to be there by 2:30, 3 a.m. to start resolving your issues. Whether it is a commercial repair or a residential, we have the stuff for emergency service repair.
Awesome. 24/7. That's insane.
Yeah, that's the same thing my wife says. That's insane.
That's
Stop
insane.
it. So,
but it's needed. I mean, if something happens at 2 a.m., a pipe bursts in your house, someone's got to be there.
Somebody's got to be there. And we don't leave a job until we've got it back to a solid point. So we're doing a job for McDonald's, and she called me at night and said, how much longer are you guys going to be? And I told her, what's for breakfast? It's like, that's when we're going to show up. And I think we finished at like 3 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Once we get into the job, you're kind of committed to do the job and get, it's their business too. They don't operate without water.
Yeah.
Restaurants have to have water. And so we're there until we get the water restored.
Yeah, definitely. What would you say then? You've kind of given a lot of advice already, but what would you say is some of the biggest advice you'd give a new business owner, maybe?
I would say the first pitfall that every new business I talk to, you better have an accountant, you better have a bookkeeper, you better have someone that's experienced in that area. Because if you don't build the stuff in the right order, it will collapse on you. It'll implode so fast. It'll make your head shake. The stress will just be unbelievable. When the IRS gets involved, it is very stressful. If you have all your books in order, it is so less stressful. When I go to sleep at night, nobody wants to get audited, but if we got audited, we have our bookkeeping and our records back for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And I know they say only keep 7. We actually keep 10. And at 10 years, we start getting rid of it. But that's only been kept by bookkeepers and accountants.
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing. The second thing is you really have to know how to price out your work. If you're not pricing the right thing, it doesn't matter how much money you make. It really matters, or how much you spend. I don't really care what I spend on advertising. I care how much I make.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get caught up in this Google thing. They get so caught up in Google. Oh, I'm paying X amount of dollars per lead. And really what they forget about is why don't you just work the job that you have in front of you? Don't take your customer all the way through a good process. So you're just kind of showing up and letting the customer be the person that's the professional. And I'll give a good example is you show up and the customer, whether you're an electrician, whether you're a plumber, it doesn't matter. They go, that wall outlet doesn't work. And you go, okay, and you fix just that wall outlet. Or this plumbing fixture doesn't work, and you just fix that plumbing fixture and you leave. You've not addressed the main problem. First of all, the house is 10 or 12 years old. So if that outlet doesn't work because of loose wiring, maybe all the other outlets don't work. And you've only addressed one item. So you're allowing the customer to be the professional. Yeah. He diagnosed everything. He told you what to fix, and that's what you fixed. Where you should be looking at it, like when we look at it, is let's start at the very beginning, the quality of the water that enters the home. Yeah. Yes, this cartridge is leaking because of calcium and magnesium buildup on it. Not only is this one leaking, but the other ones. And so you should be looking at a good, better, best policy for your customers. You should be going back and asking them, hey, when we work this exercise, the shutoff valve, we may need to look at your main to make sure. And so we get so caught up of what Google charges us per call for a referral lead, or what our acquisition cost is per lead. Yet when we go out to run the service call, we don't really set the proper policies and procedures for the guys to operate in of how to work a service call. Right. We spend so much money here to get it, and we don't spend any time educating our employees of how to work that call. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And then on top of that, something I see all the time is people going, oh, I'm spending all this money and getting all these leads, but they're counting leads and not closed business as well. Right. So they're going, oh, I have hundreds of leads. And you're like, well, how much of that actually turned into a client? Oh, none. But it's still super successful. Yeah, like, no.
It's not successful.
That's not at all how it works.
You got to go back and look at it. And it's just like when people come to you and they ask for business and they ask for help in their business. They don't come in and tell you, right, this is what I need you to help me with. You come in and say, let us do an evaluation of your business, and we're the professionals, and we'll tell you the areas you need to work on. And there's no other way to do it. Yeah. And when I come into a home, that's the way I operate is, hey, I understand your sewer's backed up, but we're going to look at everything according to these steps. Yeah. And we're going to take these steps to work that job. Yeah. We're going to be the professionals on this situation.
Yeah, ultimately, if you just fix what they want you to fix, then something else goes wrong, then they blame you.
Exactly.
Instead of fixing it from the beginning. So
if I came in and told you I have a problem with my employees being late, I need you to fix that. Yet everything else in our business, from the office situation down, doesn't work. That's not what you would address first. You would say, well, let's talk about your policies. Well, we don't really have a policy. We just tell them to show up. it's got to be done in the right
Right.
order. And when
Right.
things aren't in the right order, it's a chaos. It's a mess. And guess what? It's stressful too.
Yeah.
So if you can't take 3 to 4 weeks off of your business, you should be talking to someone.
I agree
about
with
it.
that.
So,
Yes, you should have the freedom to be able to say, you know what, I'm going for a couple weeks
Exactly.
and hope for the best.
And guess what? You should have employees after that have been there long enough that they can take 3 to 4 weeks off.
Yeah, that's true too.
Because it's everybody to be successful, not just me to go home with a big bank.
Yeah.
I want all my employees, no matter what they're doing, be successful in life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's building a wholesome company.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So I would say that's a big differentiator from most plumbing companies right there, is how well you do treat team and the culture that you have. But is there anything that you would say sets you apart from your competition? Because let's see, how many plumbers are in Houston?
Oh, there's so many.
So why you guys? Why would I pick you guys?
Well, the reason you would pick us is because we have a personal relationship, and that's why people pick who they choose. They know somebody that knows somebody, and they either going to like you and tell other people about you, or they're not going to like you and not tell other people. And so, who is it that said building raving reviews?
Raving fans.
Raving fans.
Yeah,
that's what you want.
Sugars. Yeah.
Bread Sugars. Raving fans. Once again, I didn't read the book, but I've heard a lot about it, and I do like. You want people talking well about you.
Yeah.
It costs you less on what you have to spend on Google and your advertising and stuff when you have other people that are just so happy about you, they talk about you. But why do people choose us over other people? They like us. That's the bottom line. They like us, and they go on Facebook and they say, "Wow, just had our house repiped. It was amazing."
That's awesome.
And that's what you want.
Yeah.
You want people to like you.
Of course. Awesome. 20 years in business, you said, right?
20 plus years.
20 plus years.
Yeah, we'll stop at 20.
Just keep going.
Never going over 50 years of age. I'm 50 every year.
Yeah. So 20 plus years in business. You've been through COVID and a whole bunch of other things. How do you stay motivated through all that?
That's a good question. Someone asked, what's it like being in business a long time ago? And I told them, well, I wake up every morning unemployed. It's my job to go out and bring in the work. It's my job to stay motivated. And I don't know if it's something you can teach people or if it's just something people have. I'm ADHD, and we talked about it. This is like God's gift to ADHD people. It keeps me on track and on schedule. But you just have to be motivated. That's just something inside. You have to decide that I'm going to just get up and do it. That's the only thing about it. I don't think it's something you can build in someone. They either are motivated or not. I mean, we do the DISC. Mm-hmm. Do you guys do that?
We do DISC.
When people do the hiring and stuff, and you kind of find out these are the guys that are going to work real well with me, and these are the guys that are going to fight me the whole time. Generally, the guys that fight me the whole time are actually the most motivated running guys that you can get. And so you can't really fight them. It's almost like I've rolled Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for over 7 years. Okay. You don't fight against the opponent. You kind of just redirect them. And in a lot of martial arts, they talk about redirection. But you really, some people are just bigger and stronger. And you can't just fight them. You just got to kind of guide them into the direction you want them to go. Yeah. You got to motivate them. That's my job, is to make sure I'm taking care of my employees. If I do that, my employees will take care of my customers. Yeah.
So I do think you can teach motivation. I just think the motivation is different for everybody. And that's something that actually DISC has something. So DISC, for anybody who doesn't know, is a behavioral assessment. It's 4 different letters that you get assigned, basically, and all this fun stuff. Look it up. But DISC actually has another test along with it called motivators.
Really?
And there's 7 different key motivators that motivate people. And so you can incentivize people, come up with goals based on those motivators of what motivates someone. So for me, for instance, if you look at my motivators test, like money does not motivate me.
Right.
Economic does not. Rules doesn't really motivate me. Theoretical, like learning, doesn't motivate me. What motivates me is recognition. Okay. What motivates me is idealism. So like everybody being in peace and harmony, and then standing out. Those things motivate me. So it's just different things that motivate people, and that's kind of what you create your goals and your dreams around.
I think that's very true. Money is not always the best way to motivate an employee. Not every employee is motivated by money.
I'm not. Yeah.
And even if you are motivating employees only by money, then the problem is somebody has more money than you, and you will lose a good employee. So finding out what really motivates them. One of the things that we do is we do a drawing, and everybody is put into the drawing. You can only win once, but they get $75 to take their spouse or significant other out every 2 weeks.
Oh, awesome.
And so what we're trying to do is a lot of time these plumbers work, and their spouse is the one at home that suffers. And so we want to make sure we're carving some time out for them to spend together.
That's awesome.
On us. Now, it's not like, hey, but it is motivating for them to know. And then once they've had their treat, then they're taken out of the wheel, and we just spin the wheel for everybody. And it doesn't matter whether you're a plumber, you're an apprentice, whether you work in the office, everybody is included in that wheel.
That's awesome. I mean, you sound like you have a great culture, and that's, again, another motivating thing. Like,
absolutely.
If I wake up and don't want to go to the office because it's boring or mean or whatever, like, nobody wants to go to a toxic work environment. But if I wake up and go, I can't wait to go see those people that I work with and have that environment and be taught these things and educated, then it's just,
And then you have to hire people in the right positions. Like you've met Rosie. Yeah. She's in the right position.
Yes.
She is a self-motivated go-getter, and she goes out and she brings the work in.
Yes.
And so instead of me now every day having to go out and bring the work in, I get to do stuff like this. Uh-huh. I get to meet customers. Like after this, I'm going to meet a customer on a job with one of our techs. Uh-huh. I enjoy doing that. As far as doing the work day to day, I will from time to time. I have a full service truck I work out of, but for the most part, I like what I do.
Yeah.
I like what I do. Anything else you want to add on key performance indicators? That was something that I thought you were going to talk about.
We can.
We can. Okay.
Definitely.
How should a company set key performance indicators? And for people that don't know, you can tell them what a key performance indicator might be.
Why don't you educate them on a key performance indicator?
So some of our key performance indicators that we set are employees should get X amount of reviews. Mm-hmm. A plumber should have X amount of callbacks, meaning if I do 100 jobs, I don't want more than 1 or 2 customers calling back for the same issue.
Right.
And if so, then that's a callback. And so, of course, the amount of income they bring in is a key factor. Money is a big important factor. Google reviews, happy customers. And so that's the plumber's key performance. In the office, as far as our dispatcher, X amount of jobs have to get booked. You know, when the calls come in, how many calls did you book? And she should be happy when you call.
Yeah.
We also think that the dispatcher, which I call air traffic control, because she's the one that decides no plane takes off and leaves without air traffic control knowing what's going on. And when they do, bad things can happen. Mm-hmm. Well, it's the same in our industry. No plumber should be taking off and leaving from a job without our air traffic controller knowing where they're going, what they're doing. Even if it's, I'm just going to go get parts. They should call her and let her know I'm leaving the job and coming back. Yeah. Because when the customer calls and says, where are they? She knows, hey, they're down the street. And she can map them and see them on the map. But she's also to pre-sell when the customer calls in. And say, hey, we got the right guy for you. You want to talk about water softeners? We have a guy that specializes in it. That's what he loves to do. He'll be glad to come out. We're already having her talk to the customer about the thing. And then we're adding to where, just to kind of help the customer along, hey, by the way, at the end of the call, when the plumber's out there, maybe ask him how you can save an extra $25 on this service visit. Yeah. Well, how? Well, ask the plumber while he's out there. We're already asking the customer for, like, hey, would you like us on Facebook, or would you post a review for us, or, would you refer us to another customer? How can you do it? But we're asking our dispatcher to do certain things. And so we track those things, her close percentages and the amount of sales we do. Yeah. And so those are some ways we do key performance indicators to measure. You have to know where your business is coming from. You have to know how much money you're making on it. And then you have to be able to take that and pay your employees with it.
Yeah.
So
key performance indicators are crucial for every role, like you mentioned, not just for specific roles. And then there's also something else we teach is the KPAs, or key performance activity.
Okay.
Right. And those are what lead to the key performance indicator. So a lot of people are like, these are the results I need, right, as the KPIs, because those are the metrics that you're tracking. But they forget about the like process to getting there, which you probably have and maybe not have assigned it, but saying, okay, the key performance indicator that I need is you need to schedule 2 appointments a day. Well, the activity might be you need to call 20 people a day.
Exactly.
Right. And so those are just kind of the things that every position should have based on their roles and responsibilities.
And this goes out to all the people out there who have ADHD that decide to go into business. You need to have a default schedule or a default calendar. Nobody has to tell you when you wake up that I need to take a shower, brush my teeth, put on my clothes. You have a default you work by. You should have a default. If you're ADHD, you definitely need, this is what I do every Monday morning, Monday evening, Monday night. This is what I do every Tuesday. And for almost every position that we have in our company that's in the office, they all work off of default calendars for 2 reasons. One, we don't want to just be like, oh, I forgot to collect. If we don't collect, then that's bad. Yeah. That's a big thing. So if you call our office and you talk to Esperanza and you say, hey, do you have a default calendar? She's got it right on there. They're allowed to adjust and write their own default calendars. I let the employees now write them. I'll sit down with them and say, okay, well, what about this? And should we add this? And they're allowed to adjust their default calendar. I just want to see that they're doing the same thing consistently, day after day after day after day.
Yeah.
You can adjust them. You just have to have them.
1000%. And they're also good for accountability. So we share all of our calendars in the office. So if somebody looks at my calendar and it says she's supposed to be making phone calls and they walk in my office and I'm not making phone calls, well, there's my accountability. Hey, your calendar says
what's
this.
Going on?
Yeah. So default calendars are, it takes the brain work out of every day too. Right. Instead of every day waking up and spending the first 30 minutes going, what am I going to do today?
Exactly. By the time you figure out what you're going to do, I'm 4 steps ahead of you.
Yeah.
How do you beat a faster guy in a race? You got to leave before him.
Yeah.
You can't leave at the same time. He's going to beat you every time.
Yeah.
But if I take off before him, I stand a good chance I'm going to beat him.
Yeah.
Even though I'm overweight and I'm 54 years old and I don't run
50.
as fast. I'm 50 again. I don't run quite as fast. If I take off in enough time, I'll still beat him to the finish line.
Yeah.
And default calendars, what you have to be careful on default calendars is don't overload it.
Yeah.
Don't, you can't micromanage every little minute every day, because when something comes in, it throws everything off. You just have to make sure that, hey, I made my contacts, my calls. I went out and reviewed my invoices that are supposed to go to so-and-so, like the different
the important things just need
and
to
just knock the important things out.
And that is a very big misconception about default calendars, is that they have to be blocked completely. It's like, no, there should be blank space. And the reason it's called a default calendar isn't even because it's what you're doing. It's there should be one thing in your business that you are prioritizing.
Absolutely.
So if that's marketing and there's blank space, that blank space should be marketing. Right. If you're focused on team, if there's blank space, you focus on team. So that's what that default blank space is on the calendar, is what's the one thing that you should be focusing on in your business.
Because there's some things in business you cannot forget on the default calendar. And just like in life, in default, there's some things you can't forget to get dressed and go to work. You have to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe in some areas you can, but not in this area.
Yeah.
So, default calendars, if there's one thing people can get from this, and you don't have a default calendar, you should sit down in the next 30 to 45 minutes
and create it.
Yeah,
it doesn't take long. Us. We're happy to help.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
So
awesome.
So
is there anything, I guess, if somebody were to want to use your services, want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you guys?
CapitalCarePlumbing.com.
Okay.
Of course, you can Google us, look us up online, Capital Care Plumbing. Look at our reviews. We stand out just in that area alone, and we're going to be trying to push that this year with our clients by just asking for reviews. Mm-hmm. That helps. Just reach out to us, 281-693-0006.
Okay. Anything else you want to talk about today?
No, I think that's it. I mean, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
For someone that was super nervous, it definitely made it easy.
You did great. So, I love it. I appreciate it. Well, I guess that is about it. We've heard everything we need to hear from you, and I'm excited to get this published.
Thank you.
Awesome.